Starting last has its advantages. You get to avoid situations like this. Welcome to 1 hour of Barcelona. Let's get to it. Starting second to last because we have McCann and the Porsche to our right hand side who actually didn't qualify. We qualified and set an absolutely horrendous time just on purpose, so we did get last place, and qualifying is always worth it because you do get extra points for qualifying even if you didn't do well. Now this is a mixed bag race. Gold rating SR, but not full of trusted drivers. As you can see, we're mixed with P2s, as well as a lot of people have exclamation marks by their name, especially the McLaren up in front. Following McCann through in the Porsche, we're trying to. We are in the Lexus for this race. Not got a tune for it though, so I'm using the Le Mans basic setup, and it does end up biting me in the butt as the race progresses, and I'll explain later on as to why. Everything right now is in order. Everybody is being fair and courteous to each other, while the Porsche, the Macan, is actually making quite a few insane gains. So credit where credit is due. They've got more confidence on cold tyres than a lot of other people. Well, fair play to them. Well held to the McLaren up in front. Well said, Flash. They did hold that rear end slide very well, considering it's a mid-engine car, and in Le Mans Ultimate, when the back end goes, it really does like to shine. Not only that, as we're heading over to this very sharp corner, we already have dust being kicked up in the air. One person off in the drink. Lovely rejoin straight into front of everybody else. Oh god, be careful boy. Nice little scratch delivered to the front end of this car. By the looks of it, no damage has been awarded to either of us. That's all we needed at the start of the race, having damage already. There is a Ferrari off on the track. Fair enough, each to their own. Everybody has a different view of how to take a corner, while this P2 car that has just overtaken us did actually forget to start the race, so they had to start off in the pits, now having to work their way through all the GT3 cars to find their own friends again. Time to overtake this McLaren, a little bit slow, a little bit holding us up the inside we go, beautifully done. Let's just pray they don't dive bomb us in this corner here. Not to be the case, we have secured it. Time to get our head down and catch up to Bobby in the BMW up in front. And talking about BMWs up in front, we're about to witness or come across an accident. An accident that I think was rather brutal. Not only did they have contact with the black car, they also had very good contact with the Lexus. So that is 2 drivers already out of this race, because there's a free tyre to a good hole on the left hand side, missing from the BMW. We go off the track, and surprisingly, we're going to get a warning for that. Avoiding the crash. Yeah, the stewards for the first time in their infinite wisdom didn't give a penalty for avoiding a crash. To be fair, that usually happens at a different track, but this one does seem to be quite fair at the same time. What is going on right now? Oh my gosh, that was close. And you don't even realise how close that was. We nearly got ruined, all because a car lost a little bit of control. Yeah. And do you know what? That was really surprising how easily they lost control of that car. A little bit of a turn in, the back end stepped out, and that was it. But 2 cars in one? Well, you know, can't grumble, that's 2 places gained. You can see we have just moved the brake bias more to the rear of the vehicle, and that's because the tyres are getting a little bit warm. And by a little bit warm, I mean they're losing grip due to the heat. So moving the brake bias more to the rear of the vehicle gives the rears something to do and the front to have a bit of a break when braking, thus keeping the temperatures of the tyres cooler at the front. That is the plan of it all, and it does actually work out overall. As the race progresses on, move the brake bias more and more to the rear, really does keep the front tyres nice and cool. What also is pretty cool is these LMP cars pretty much taking themselves out, thus giving us free reign to keep racing. Problem with the P2 cars overtaking things like that, they do get edgy when they're behind you, and you've got to give space. Now I know the rules do state that it's up to them to overtake safely, things like that, but you know, you've got to try and make it easy for them as well. They want to get past you, they're quicker, they're under pressure from their own class of racing. Just try and make it easy for them and you won't get caught up in the fire. Well, that is what one would hope anyway. Whether it always works out that way, you know, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We are now in position 7. Even though we started last, which was position 12, or well, almost last, we have gained quite a few places overall. We are 5.6 seconds away from the next car in front. That has now been cut down to 3.6. Well, that's due to this. Not sure how they managed it, but a free place is a free position. We're now in P6. We're almost halfway through this race, which is not too bad going. We are 9 seconds away from the Porsche Macan that was the person in last place starting behind us. They do have a serious lead. We have been quite unfortunate with the traffic of the P2 cars, while we probably have also been a little bit too overly cautious at giving them the position. We have Jay Manning that's looking to overtake us again. That's probably about the 4th time we've overtaken. But we did try giving space. They didn't take the inside line, probably out of more cautiousness than anything else. But can't really grumble at that. I'd rather them be cautious, hang back out of the way, than us being tied up in a situation. We do have to bear in mind, though, we are not going to make the end of this race on 1 tank of fuel. We are going to have to stop in a pit stop now, well, shortly, and think about our strategy for the rest of this race. We can't have any more tyres applied to the car, and I don't think it's kind of worth the time to lose either. But we are going to, right now, at the end of lap 23, head off into the pits. Ultimately, did we do the most rookie mistake, because I've never pitted at Catalonia in LMU before. Do you see what I'm doing wrong? Do I really need to pit limits to this little bit? I think I do. I think it's from there. What an idiot. Yeah, I only needed 10 laps of fuel. Oh well, it's better have more than none. Yeah, we didn't need to apply the pit limiter by the wall on the way in. You know, we could have carried a lot more speed and probably actually caught up to position 5. So that is 2 or 3 seconds lost there, Flash. Absolutely special. On the upside though, it has given the car time to lower the temperature of the tyres, and we have caught up to the Aston Martin up in front. But that doesn't hold off forever. The Aston Martin is that tad quicker, and I really do believe it's due to this setup on this car, where it just really likes to heat up those front tyres. And I think maybe the anti-roll bars are a little bit too soft, but if I stiffened the anti-roll bars, I wouldn't have the cornering ability and the stability of this car. I know, really just swinging roundabouts, and Aston Martin is an absolute brute to drive, but a brilliant car nonetheless. Maybe if we did the Dave Coach tune, things probably would have been a little bit better. I'm not too sure. Never really used his tune all that much. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. But you see I'm moving the brake bias more to the rear of the vehicle again, just to really reduce the impact on the front wheels and just have it for cornering as much as I can and make the rear wheels do a lot of the work. And you can see the balance is getting there in the braking zones. The rear tyres are warming up a lot more, and the front tyres aren't taking so much of the brunt. What would also be helpful is if the LMP cars did try and slow down the Aston Martin a little bit more up in front, and it didn't seem to be the case. It seemed to massively work in their favour and not ours, which is really not good overall. And we need to be a little bit closer to capitalise on the slipstream, which, you know, is quite powerful on this track. And you see over a period of time we lost a little bit more. Not helpful, not good. 1.8 seconds away. What is working in our favour though is position 7. Not going to be too long till we start actually catching them up. So we're not under pressure from anybody behind besides the P2 cars, letting them make sure they can get past. We just need to start applying pressure to the Aston Martin up in front. Now they're 1.8 to 1.9 seconds away. Manning has just passed us, and the next P2 car is 2 seconds away. So I think something may have happened to Manning, because they were really leading, and by quite the margin. They're not so much anymore, but the car behind is flashing their lights, letting me know that they want to get through, and, well, they do try. Very, very close. There's actually contact from that car then. I mean, seriously, you don't have to be that close to gain or overtake a GT3 car. I think really that is just, you know, swinging the old meat down below for no reason. Each to their own, of course. I'm not going to argue about that unless there was a desync issue. But, yeah, don't need to be that close. That is an accident waiting to happen. Talking about accidents, there is the Mercedes up in front, who has had many accidents of this race. When you stay to the end, you'll be able to see it all in the crash cam. But that is position 7, that we are not far off from lapping. Sadly, they didn't hold up the Aston Martin as much as one would have hoped. And as we are coming towards the end of the race, Manning has passed us again. Manning, to be fair though, even though they've got a red exclamation mark, has been a very, very courteous driver. So it must have had a series of really unlucky or unfortunate races to be in the situation they're in. What is fortunate though is this Mercedes up in front, doing us a massive solid, and that is by letting us pass. Thank you ever so much. They've been under blue flag for a little period of time, but we haven't been close enough to be able to, well, overtake them or just sling past them. But they have given up the position when we were a bit closer. Credit where credit's due, you know, they didn't have to. Well, they kind of sort of do to a degree, but considering they're not battling anybody and we're still 1.6 seconds away from the Aston Martin up in front, we've still got a little while to go before we start battling that car. What we do need is a slingshot move out of this final corner, really start catching up upon them. Lap 34, our final lap. The Aston Martin's 2.5 seconds away. We were just unable to keep pace because the tyres are just getting hotter and hotter. Every time we really pushed it through the corners, we suffered in the second corner. When we suffered in the second corner, we suffered in the third corner braking zone. It was really snowballing. You can see right now the tyres are glowing green into the yellow. Yeah, really not good. And I think maybe stiffening up the anti-roll bars for the next race, sacrificing creature comforts for grip and longevity is probably the way forward. One thing I will say though, there wasn't many Mustangs in this race, which is really nice to see, because in the bronze class racing and even the silver ones, there is flooded with Mustangs. Everybody loves the Mustang, but for this gold class racing, the Mustang wasn't the popular choice. You can see there's a Corvette in position 1. There's obviously a lot of Porsches, there's always a lot of Porsches. There's a Mercedes, there's a Lexus behind us, there's an Aston Martin, there's a Ferrari. It's such a mixed bag in this race. It really is nice to see. The Mercedes behind 1 lap down, the Lexus 2, and the McLaren that is in position 9, 3 laps down. We have caught up a tiny bit of time to the Aston Martin up ahead, 2 seconds away. We have less fuel, so we have done exceptionally well in fuel management. 1.9 seconds away. Are they going to stuff up this final corner? One could only hope. Doesn't look like to be the case, but although there is dust up ahead, I think that is a P2 car in the drink on the final corner of that lap. Wow, that must suck for them. I'm sorry to everybody who was in there, but seriously, that is the most unluckiest crash ever. Let's have a look where we ended up though. We have done quite well. Obviously qualifying, we chose to go as poorly as possible, which did work in our favour to a degree. I did have a crash in quali where I lost a wheel, and we had contact at the start of the race when I crashed into the back of everybody else because everybody else was going so slow. But heading into crash cam, we have a BMW overtaking us to our right hand side. Heading over to the chicane type corner, how on earth did a BMW turn into this car here? And it really was a turning job, because look at this. The Corvette, BMW, side by side, straight pit road, squeezing in a little bit, and the BMW turned left under braking. How bad is that? And, you know, it's not a purposeful move. It definitely was an accident. You can only hope, I guess. This poor Ferrari driver, I've got to be honest, really had a hard time in this race. Heading over to what was one of the most intense crashes of this race. I feel so sorry for this Lexus, who did their best to avoid a situation they was never going to be able to avoid. Because look at this from their angle. Lexus turning in. Crashes up ahead. Okay, I can see the car rolling back. I go left, and the car puts the throttle on, and that was it for this Lexus. How unlucky is that? I do feel for them, I'm not going to lie. BMW and Mercedes. A little bit of contact, a little bit of kiss. These two really do heavily battle in this race. And it is very contactful. Up until this point. And somehow, both of them managed to go off the track. And you see me just going past just there. And this is what I see about the Ferrari. You know, they had the most unluckiest race in the world. They just kept falling off the track. Back to the Mercedes and the BMW again, because they're back on the track and doing their own thing. Yeah, I don't think that BMW is coming back. P2, P2, P2s, and they all fall like dominoes. Lovely. And luckily enough, that black one did not get collected, but it definitely took a new approach to cleaning the under tray of the car. And yeah, Ferrari at it again. A lot of damage on that car in a moment as they're scraping their way through this track. What a nice livery on this P2 car. I do like it. It's definitely different. Shame they couldn't avoid the accident that was fast approaching them. Talking about P2s and mixing it with GT3 cars, yeah, it really is difficult. It's got to be patient. Everybody's got to be patient with each other. What a save, not gonna lie. That is an incredible save from that car. And yeah, it's not an easy save to make either. Sadly though, it wasn't meant to be. On another note, position 1 of the GT3 class racing does get an issue of their own. And that's because number 16 of the P2 cars has an issue of their own. Damage has been inflicted, but it really doesn't affect the Corvette driver. They're long gone and not really racing many other people. This is why I say P2 cars have got to be more patient. This poor McLaren driver was the McLaren at the start of the race, had quite a rough time for themselves. If you're going to pit, commit to pitting.